It's your life, it's your choices. Follow your true voice. Sail on against sunset. Hold on to a shore. It's your life, it's your choices. Follow your true voice. Sail on against sunset. Hold on to a shore.
My ear is blocked. My ear is all blocked up. This is a problem I've been having for a number of years, but it had gone away. But now it's back. Let me find a place to put you. And let me put on some bitches. Keep it cool in the streets. This is a place to put you. This looks like a place. Yeah, it's balanced. Okay. How we doing tonight, folks? Fucking empty. Where's the real one? There we go. How we doing tonight, folks? Donate that where we're going. My ear is full of earwax. It's gross. It's disgusting. Look, I know more than anyone. Okay, it's happening to me. It's not. It sucks. Can't fucking hear out of half my ear, my face. Half my face is not hearable. I don't like it. And the way it works, there's nothing you can do to prevent it. If you're just someone who gets it, you're just someone who gets it. Genetics, or in my case, a childhood ear infection, just bring it on, and it's permanent. At least it might go, or it could just randomly go away. Which I thought had happened to me, but unfortunately, after like 3 years of getting lucky and not having a blocked ear, it's come back, which sucks. But anyway, how old is this YouTube channel by now? How long have I fucking been doing this shit? You see, I haven't made a vlog like this in some while. And there are a number of reasons for that. Shut up, Blady. Shut up, Blady. Blady's coming in. He's always there when you least expect him. My channel. There we go. That's the button. Just shut up. Shut up. How old is this channel? 5 years. Well, 5 years since the channel was made. I'm the same age as Digi now when Digi made Insomnia Analysis. Been doing this for 5 years. It all gets me thinking. Thinking about how we gotta bring it back to the classics. That's one part of what I'm thinking. And I'm also thinking about, I don't know, I was putting some pressure on myself, I was thinking to myself, every time I made a video, there's no point if it's not something special, if it doesn't have some gimmick, because the Denpa vlog format is very basic, it's minimal effort, it's very hands-off, old school YouTube. It's very old school YouTube. is not going to compete with a Mr. Beast video, or even like a Ludwig video or something. There's no, I locked 12 people in my basement. Last one to leave wins £2. There's nothing like that. It's just kind of fucking hell. We just kind of hang out. We just kind of hang out here. Just kind of hang out. You know what I'm saying? And so I was thinking I gotta keep doing stuff to keep it fresh. Fucking thing. Hold on. There we go. Why didn't I just do that? Wait, what is making it tilt? Is it that thing? It was that thing the whole time. Seems very dark. Whatever. Damn, I always think back to the beginning of my channel. One of the first videos I made was called Manifesto. And if you listen to it,
there might be some chat.
Firstly, I used to speak different back then, which is weird. But secondly,
the entire point of this channel is to be unknown.
The point of the channel is to be unknown. Recently, I've had a conflicting experience with this, which is that it seems like for me, quick succession, 3 of my videos have done unusually well. Now, this is not actually that recent of the news, but I made a video about well, it's not new anymore, but the Half-Life 25th anniversary update. I made a video called Tommy I Creep at Night, which was just seeing a trend and copying the trend. And then I made a video, a TF2 clip dump, and all 3 of those videos did unusually well for my channel. They got maybe 5 times, or maybe significantly more than that, but they got a lot more views than my videos regularly get. I've had videos blow up in the past, and blow up for me is a relative term, okay? I normally get in a couple hundred views, a few hundred views per video, so anything over 1,000 is blowing up for me. Even though that's in the scheme of YouTube, it's crazy to me when I still think in old school terms, because whenever I see a YouTube video and I check the views and I see it has over 100,000 views, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, that's done well. Even though, like, there's not a single popular YouTuber who doesn't get 100,000 views per video anymore. Well, there might be some, but they're pretty rare. So I think old school about that, but yeah, I mean, I was very used to getting a few hundred views per video for a very long time, so it's odd. And there was a part of me that was kind of like, I gotta keep this up, I gotta keep making the sorts of videos that'll get a few thousand views rather than a few hundred views. For some reason, I was like, I gotta do that for some reason. There was a drive for some time because my YouTube channel hadn't hit 1,000 subscribers for a long time. And so there was a drive of like, I gotta make more videos so I can hit 1,000 subscribers. And the reason was that at 1,000 subscribers, you unlock monetization. And I don't know what I thought was going to happen when I unlocked monetization, but it was every time you open the YouTube app, like the YouTube Studio app, or go on YouTube Studio, or anything, it would always indicate to me how like I'm so close to enabling monetization. And so this goal of 1,000 subscribers got stuck in my head. I was very stuck on this particular goal of 1,000 subs. And then when I hit that, I was like, okay, I got monetization now. So if I make videos that get more views, I get paid, I get money. But now, I've realized a couple of things. First of all, YouTube doesn't pay very much. If you're not the sort of person who gets hundreds of thousands of views on a video, you don't really get paid. Like, calling it I could make more money than I've made off of all of my YouTube videos if I just, like, I don't know, sold a couple of TF2 items. It would be like 2 or 3. Yeah, actually, I have even more experience. I could sell 1 TF2 item, and I don't have like unusuals or anything like that. So I own 0 unusuals. I could sell one of my old CS:GO items that I don't use anymore, and make more money than I've ever made from YouTube. Like, I don't even make I've never made enough money from YouTube to even pay me out. I've never even reached the minimum payout threshold. So, like, you know, we all need money to live. Money's nice to have, and having an extra source of income was always something that I vaguely, you know, it's always something useful. Since I don't make much money off of music or anything like that, I make a little bit, but it would be, you know, one can always have more money. It's not going to hurt. But, you know, I feel like I have to do that. I have to justify the reason why this sort of, I had latched onto this concept. But after realizing just how this sounds weirdly cynical. Hold on, let me just like clarify, because this kind of sounds like I can make money off of this. I'm going to become like a normie YouTuber. But that was never something that I intended. I was like, how can I make something that I would watch, and that I feel comfortable making, but that might get a few more views? And that's where some of these TF2 videos have come in. It was because of that one Mario 64 video I made that quite a few people said that they enjoyed. And so I kind of wanted to base some of the video ideas off of that kind of slightly more pop style of YouTube video. So I was already interested in that because I made that Mario 64 video, and I made like the Callaghan Engineer with the Lone Sentry video. Like I was already interested in something more towards the poppy side of things. I'm just referring to it in music terms. You know, I like making pop music from time to time, and there's a certain enjoyment in the craft of trying to make a video that people will actually watch. And clearly, I'm not very good at it, but there is a certain enjoyment in that. That was basically where it was coming from. It wasn't really that, like, I have said a bunch of stuff about how, it'd be nice to earn a little money on the side, but I never imagined that that wasn't the main motivating factor. It was like a secondary factor. That was just sort of a guide towards the idea that, like, hey, it might be fun to try popularity for once. And even beyond that, you know, you watch my videos, they're not exactly Mr. Beast, you know, they're still not that kind of thing. So I guess my idea of that is kind of twisted. But all of these things sort of compounded into the concept that even if I were to make a Denver vlog, which I did with the first episode of this series, there needs to be something special about it. It needs to be somehow unique in content and form. So I thought, I can work in, you know, I make music, I can work in the music aspect, the behind the scenes of making a song, or the process of making a song into the video's narrative, which I didn't do a very good job of, I personally think. But, you know, I've sat back and I've thought, you know, we don't need fancy editing. We don't need any of that stuff, right? We can just be you and me hanging out in a room, and me wearing sunglasses in the dark and drunk and vaping and whatever. And we can just hang out like old times. I don't think I'll be using these, actually. Something very strange happened to me recently. Something exceptionally strange and unusual has happened to me. Should I put the camera down somewhere? This whole shaky handheld thing is going too far. Just gonna stay put. Okay, it's balancing precariously on a ThinkPad right now. Something very strange has happened to me recently, which is that I appear to have made some sort of website called denverchan.org, and it's like a text board that I am in charge of now. I'm not sure how that happened. But hey, here we are. In fact, I could tell you exactly how it happened. I've recorded, at this point, at least 4 different videos about how social media alternatives such as Blue Sky, Mastodon, and co-host in particular have been very disappointing. And in addition to that, how Discord is a bad platform for numerous reasons. And in conclusion, that's why I made Denpa-chan. And all of these videos that I have recorded have been really long and rambly and bad and boring. And so I haven't posted any of them. But I'm not going to... So because of that, I'm not going to repeat these rants now. I'm not going to repeat them, not because the actual things there are nuggets in all of these videos, which I think are good. And every time I make a new one, I add the previous nuggets. But then they become even more spiraling. So we're not doing it. We're not repeating it all. I would otherwise... Excuse me. Damn. I would otherwise use this video as an excuse to ramble about the reasoning behind the invention of Denpa-chan. But unfortunately, I'm bored of talking about it because I've already done that 4 times and it was terrible. So, what do they say about the definition of madness again? Or insanity? But being in possession of denpachan.org is a very unusual thing, particularly because this is kind of something I've dreamed of for ever since maybe 2016 even. Ever since I first was introduced to the concept of alt-chans, I know I said it, phrasing that as was introduced makes it sound kind of like there was an individual who showed me this stuff. There was no such individual. I just discovered these sorts of things. But ever since I discovered alt-chans, and then slightly later on text boards and BBSs and Publixes and all of the interesting part of the internet, I've been wanting to make my own, somewhere in the back of my head. In fact, back in the day, I even had a board on 8chan that I ran, and I think one person ever visited and posted. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what my board on 8chan was. Oh, by the way, so there are probably some people watching. This is something that's interesting about Denpa-chan, is it's clear to me that a large percentage of the user base have never used websites like this before, anonymous text boards or image boards, just through their behavior and posting style and such like. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I want Denpa-chan to be in the format of something that already exists, but not a copy of something that already exists. For example, the software that Denpa-chan is based on or built on is called Emanon. And Emanon comes with a theme. It comes with a CSS style sheet to make it look like Nichanaru, the OG Nichanaru, right? Which is what all of the similar text boards, for example, 4-CH or Secret Area VIP Quality, and similar sites are all built to look like Nichanaru does. Or I guess at this point, Go-chanaru, but I'm not going to stop calling it Nichanaru. But anyway, I didn't want that. I changed the CSS because I wanted it to look, I didn't just want it to be a copy of the already existing sites. It's supposed to be a format that's been explored, but not just the same thing as everything else. And especially, I'm not interested in 90s internet nostalgia or 2000s internet nostalgia. I don't, this theme, while I think it's one of, if you go on my myanimelist.net page and you actually look at my anime list, it has the, I made the CSS myself as the 2-channel theme. It's themed on. So I love the aesthetic of it. I'm in favor of the aesthetic, but I didn't want to imply that fucking shit. I didn't want to imply that we're like, oh, fucking old website good, new thing bad. It's like, no, this is a new thing. It's not the same culture as previous BBSs. It's not the same user base. And it doesn't look the same, even though it is built on the same ideas. But it's interesting seeing a group of people who have never. It's actually incredibly interesting. It's like fascinating because it served as a migration from my Discord server, right? And it's clear that there's a large portion of my Discord server who have never even used like 4chan regularly, let alone something obscure like, DQN or secret area VIP quality or anything like that. Or even probably know what 2channel is. So, like, I've always had this theory about how the design of websites influences the culture that generates on that website. And this is fascinating to me because I've always been really interested in that, like how the design of different systems on different websites inform the culture of that website. And so now I'm getting a test group of my own, a bunch of people who haven't really used a website of this format before and are inventing new and creative ways to use systems, which, for example, there are a lot of people who name fag on Denpachan. And now, name fagging is generally looked down upon by text boards or image boards, but we don't make it for here. It's fine. Like, it doesn't matter. There's a different place. If you want to do that, you can do that. It's up to you, unless you're on Lounge, in which case no name fagging. But it's forced down on. But that's interesting. And like these people, they don't even know half the features of the website. Like, I've not seen a single person Sage or Sage. I've always called it Sage in my head. I know it's pronounced Sage, I believe. But I've not seen a single person do that. I've not seen a single person use a trip code. There are various name fags, but there's no trip fags. Because I don't think people know that they exist. And also, I've not seen a person use BB code or post some sort of ASCII art or cow emoji, which would obviously be very common on a text board. And then there's something else, which is a lot of people there's a thread on Denpachan right now, which is a feature request thread. And to those people posting in that thread, some of it I appreciate, okay? But you vastly overestimate my abilities here. I don't know how to add a lot of these things, buddy. I don't know how to program something like that. I don't know JavaScript. I just copy pasted some shit on fucking GitHub, and I modified some stuff, but I don't know how to implement a new feature from scratch. So you might be vastly overestimating my capabilities. But then there's also some stuff where I'm like, why are you putting the burden for this on me? Like, surely this is easier for you. Like, if this is just something that you want, why don't you just do it? You don't have to come and wait for me to make this a feature. So, for example, people asking for a dark theme. Yeah, I could probably whip up a JavaScript button. Actually, I think you can do it in pure HTML and CSS button that switches to a dark theme. I could do that. That's within my capabilities. It would take some effort, but I could learn how to do that. That seems pretty easy. But why would I? If you want to know how you get a dark theme for Denpachan.org? Let me show you. I'm going to show you right now. This is how you do it. So this is Denpachan. You see it? How it's all light and not dark. Can this thing stay still for a second? Holy fuck. There we go. Is that okay? Yeah, let's visit Lounge. You really can't zoom in. That always is baffling to me. But anyway, this is how you make a dark theme. You just install this fucking add-on called Dark Reader, and then you turn it on, and you just adjust it. Oh, sorry, you just press this button. This is dark. There you go. Look at that dark theme. Isn't that such a dark theme? Aren't you seeing how this is a dark theme and how it's dark and stuff like that? Look how dark it is. It's so dark. Like, why do you have to bother me with this? You could just fucking install a browser add-on and do it yourself. Like, come on, just do that. I'm not gonna put a bunch of fucking custom CSS stuff. I like the way the site looks. You can edit your own CSS. I mean, maybe I will. Maybe I will make it. I don't want to say that. That was overly aggressive. Let me back up. Let me retract some of those statements. That was overly aggressive. I might do something like this. But for now, there's no reason to make it a big deal because you can just install something like Stylish or Dark Reader or any of the alternatives and do it yourself. But yeah, it's pretty strange being in command of a website like this. Even though I don't have to do anything really. Like after spending a day setting it up and buying the hosting and the domain and stuff, like it kind of just I post, but I don't have to, like, no one's being a dickhead. I haven't had to moderate so far, which is surprising. I really expected people to spam or flame or shit post, but so far I haven't had to moderate. I'm sure that won't last, but so far. But it just feels odd. It just feels strange. I don't know how to explain it. It's like these things that I've been using my whole life, suddenly I have access to, like I've always, the people who run, even the really small image boards and text boards and BBSs and all sorts of little online communities that I'm a big traveler in this space, right? I've been spending years digging through and finding tiny little things that you've never heard of, right? And some of these I've spent, like, there are some of these tiny little communities that are in this kind of space of image boards and text boards and so on, which I've spent like hundreds of hours on, like which I've become part of the community on, even though it's very small. But the idea of like being the person who runs one of those have always seemed like very far off people. Like something that was out of reach to me. It wasn't even something I'd vaguely thought, like, it would be cool if I could make something like this. But it had never really occurred to me that I could really do that. But it turns out, if you just try, you can just do it. It doesn't even take, so there you have it. I don't think I have anything else to add. It's very strange, this lifestyle that I lead. As a hickey neat, someone who not in employment, education or training, who doesn't go outside, who stays in his room and in his house, and doesn't really have any contact with normalcy. I really don't. That's the thing. I really have no contact with normalcy. I don't really have any sense at all of what normal people are doing with their lives. I have an idea that they wake up at around 7, go to work, they have a shower, have breakfast, stuffed breakfast, and say, I imagine it's like when I was going to school, right? Because even the jobs that I've had have not been real jobs, like normal jobs. The first job I had was with a moving company, helping people move house, carrying boxes. And that job was more of a, we have work when we call you up and say you have work, and it's all cash, you know. It's not, don't worry, tax man. I never got paid, I never earned enough to cross the minimum threshold for I'd have to pay income tax. Don't worry, tax man. I know you're watching, Mr. HMRC. I did not tax evade. When I was like, by the way, also like 15 or something. Did not happen. But anyway, you know, as that implies the fact that I didn't meet the minimum tax threshold. It wasn't a very common, it was just sort of a like, randomly we call you up, hey, we need an extra pair of hands. And then you go and you work for however long it takes to do that job. And then you go home. And then my other job that I've had was working at a bar, at a nightclub, and that was a much more normal job, but it was still an unusual job in the sense that I worked nights and I worked very long shifts. I worked 13-hour shifts, you know, from like midday to like 3 a.m. That's not quite, I don't know if the math works out there, but that long shifts, but at night, and that's the key thing. Like the night job as a bartender is a very different situation from a normal job. And I also didn't work, I only worked there for a few months. But I have no real conception of what it's like to wake up at, you know, early, stuff breakfast into your mouth and go to work all day. And then I assume normies, they come home and then they probably watch Netflix or whatever. They probably watch Ted Lasso or some whatever popular Netflix show exists at the time, and they probably just go to sleep. And this is very odd to me. I don't understand this at all. I don't have any real understanding or relation to what's going on here. And maybe even if I mean, that's just my assumption. Perhaps there are interesting people who have jobs. It's likely. But nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make here is that I don't know, and I'm very distant from these people. I don't have any conception of what goes on in their lives. I see people. I go outside sometimes. I said I was a hiki, but I need to buy food for myself from time to time. So, you know, and beer. So I do go to the shops sometimes, and when I go to the shops, I see people. And I have no idea what's going on with them. I have no understanding of how to relate to these people because I live this incredibly strange lifestyle. And I think there are a lot of young people who watch my videos. There are a lot of, you know, people younger than me who watch my videos. And just like I was to Digi back in the day, they sort of see my lifestyle as something aspirational. And this is what I differ from Digi. I'll say, fuck yeah, it's aspirational. This shit's way better than having a job. Holy fuck, this is great. It's great. It's fucking, yeah, you're goddamn right, it's aspirational. I'm living the fucking dream, baby. That's what I fucking say. This is about as good as my life could get. You know, given that I'm a bit nuts, given that I got mental problems, you know, there's nothing I can really do that suits me better than this. It's as good as it fucking gets. And the problem is, you can't fucking do it. You can't do it. This is the real issue. Is that in order to get this lifestyle, I had to become incredibly, impossibly lucky. Like, to a pretty insane degree. Compared to the majority of people on the planet. It's a extremely high luck stat. So the chances are you just can't do it, which sucks for you, I guess. But it also puts me in a strange position, because a lot of people with similar lifestyles to mine are younger than me because of statistics. You know, every new year that passes by, more get axed off and sucked into the normie system. Even people who seem to be... I'm thinking of a YouTuber I really like called Donut Man Can, who disappeared for a good amount of time. And they didn't live a lifestyle that was the same as mine. They had a pretty different lifestyle, which I found fascinating, by the way. They're more of a traditional vagrant drifter. Drifter is the word I'm looking for. More of a traditional drifter type, I suppose. But with anime. With Kuroneko from Moraimo. Best girl, by the way. Actually, I don't know about that. Yeah, best girl. But Kirino, though. But best girl is fucking Kuroneko. Anyway. Where was I going with this? Yeah, Donut Man Can's fucking sick, and he just joined the army? What the fuck? Anyway, shouts out to Donut Man Can. And shouts out to me, who's hanging out and living a very I just wanted to get out there that it feels unusual. Like, it's a... I imagined people, they have some shared experience, you know? But I don't feel like I have shared experience. I've had a very strange life. I wasn't in the public schooling system for a lot of my childhood. If you watch, there's this ancient video. It's not ancient, but there's this very old video of mine. I don't even know what it's called. It's something about Turkish billionaires. But due to some very strange scenarios, I ended up in a private school growing up. For a lot of it. Not for my whole schooling, but for a lot of it. It's where I speak like a posh twat. Even though my family wasn't particularly posh, you know. There was a strange confluence of circumstances which led to a Turkish billionaire paying for my education. And so already, from the get-go, my base childhood experiences are very different from the majority of the population. Not just because of, like, private education versus public education in the sense of the institution, but in particular in the sense of the people. That these schools were quite small. There were small amounts of students in each class. And in particular, there were really only two kinds of people at that school. There were people whose parents were rich or wealthy businessmen who had come to London temporarily for work and had sent their kid to school here, and then they would leave in a year or 2 years when their family, the work was done. So you know, there wasn't really much going on there. Versus the fact that this was a school that went all the way from primary to the end of high school, what would be high school in America. So there were people that I'd known since I was like 6 years old that were still in the same classes as me for years and years and years. And that's not super uncommon, I know, but it was just a bit, I don't know, there was a few of these people. It was strange, combined with the small class size, I just felt like it was an unusual environment. And I was one of the poorest kids at that school in comparison. So it was definitely a bit unusual. And then being taken from that to like the worst state school that like possibly could exist, that was so bad that it got shut down by the government the year that I left. Like, it's very... I feel like I have nothing in common with everyone else. Because even the bit that everyone's supposed to have in common, which is they put you in a kiddie prison for your whole childhood, even that bit is like, I did it fucking weird. And then you got sixth form in the UK, which you can fucking Google if you don't know what that is. And like, I dropped out of my first sixth form, but that's not that unusual. My second sixth form was Fairly typical. But no, that's not true. My second sixth form that I joined after dropping out of the first one was focused on music. And then, somehow I went to uni. And that's the other thing. I never had to study. That's the weirdest thing. The strange confluence of events that meant I never had to study. That, like, at the school, the strange school that got shut down, like, I never fucking studied. And I, passed the bare minimum of GCSEs. This is a very boring topic to talk about. And then in the sixth form, I never studied. And then when it got to the end of the final exams and stuff, I had already gone around to different unis and gotten an unconditional offer from a uni. So it was unconditional. It didn't matter how well I did in the exams. So I just dropped out. Like, right at the end, I just dropped out just before the exams because I was like, oh, well, I'm only here so that I can get the bit of paper that lets me go to uni. Why would I stay here? I have an unconditional offer. So I went there. And the uni was shit. I mean, it wasn't terrible. But by this point, I was like a giga hickey me. And I didn't want to fucking go. And then COVID, I don't know, it was very I feel like I've lived a very unusual life. That's all I'm getting at. I feel like I've lived a very unusual life. And that makes it hard for me to relate to normal everyday people. That's all I'm getting at here. Hey guys, and welcome back to Alcohol on Mondays. This is the alcohol I'm drinking on a Monday. This is Corona Extra. I don't know what the extra means. I got no fucking idea. Okay? I don't even know what's going on. But let me tell you about beer. I don't know shit about beer. I'm not a beer guy. I've drank a lot of beer in my time, but that doesn't make me a beer guy. I've had beers which I've thought tasted particularly good. And yeah, I've never sought out the concept of a particularly good tasting beer. Now, whiskey, I've sought. Okay, I've drank your lager. I know what I like in a whiskey. I like a smoky, peaty Isla whiskey. My favorite whiskeys are things like Lagavulin or I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've drank a nice fancy-ass whiskey. I used to buy them, but it was not a good use of money, so I stopped. Port Charlotte, I believe is what it's called, I think. Yeah, I'm correct about that. That's a fucking great whiskey. That shit, delicious. That shit is good as fuck. Anyway, but beer, even though I've had beers which I've tasted, which I've thought tasted particularly nice, and some which I thought tasted particularly bad, I've never gone on any sort of quest to search out for beers that are better than other beers. In the past, I always considered Corona to be not my favorite, something kind of mid. But I've noticed it's bitterer. It's more bitter than other similar beers on the market in a way that I quite like. But frankly, none of the standard beer brands that you can buy in the store are particularly good. What really matters is this number right here. ABV. Alcohol by volume. That's what I've always been interested in primarily. In the past, I used to drink a lot of Polish beer, but I stopped. But the reason was that I thought it had a particularly high alcohol content. But it actually did not. It was just some sort of strange thing on the labeling that was misleading me into believing that. That was a long time ago, though. That was a long, long time ago. In the slightly more recent past, 3-4 years ago, and maybe beyond that, beyond that backwards. I used to drink this beer called Desperados quite often. And Desperados is supposedly a tequila-flavored beer. It doesn't taste anything like tequila, but it is quite sweet. And it's the sort of beer that's very easy to drink. It's almost feels like something that's marketed towards teenagers, you know, or people who aren't particularly used to drinking beer, because it doesn't really taste like beer. It's very fruity. It's very very sweet, not very bitter at all. And then on top of that, and this is the reason why I used to drink it very often, it has a higher alcohol percentage than most beers. Like this beer, 4.5% alcohol. Pretty fucking lame. Whereas Desperados is more like 7%, I think, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But Desperados is also slightly more expensive than other beers. And there's another problem with Desperados, which is that because it's quite sweet, you know, your first Desperados of the night is great. And your second one is also pretty great. But, like, you can't drink 6 Desperados in a row. You know, it starts to taste sickly. It starts to taste really bad after you've drank a lot of Desperados. Which I don't recommend doing. So, these days, because of the cost, I mean, I don't drink very much these days anyway. This is a rare occurrence for me. But I don't know, I just bought whatever I saw. And I remembered having a vague enjoyment of Corona last time. Also, it's funny that there's a beer called Corona, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this virus going around. That shit was crazy. Anyway, that's Alcohol Mondays. It's La Cerveza Más Fina. Is this somewhere I can put you? Is that gonna work out for me? That'll work out for me. You know, I used to have much more appreciation or commitment to the idea of quantity, of becoming a human content machine, and of putting out lots of stuff in all sorts of different ways. And to some extent, I still do that, you know? But, especially on this channel, that concept has gone away. You know, there were periods where I was posting videos every single day on this channel. Now, admittedly, they were relatively low effort, low quality vlogs, but they were daily. And if I actually think about the YouTubers I watch, you know, there were the super high effort, you know, videos that are going to be memorable for years. Just pops into my mind. It might be Pan and Kowick's latest video about invisible walls in Super Mario 64. You know, Pan and Kowick is someone who doesn't make videos very regularly, but every time he does make a video, it's an event. Right, it's something very important and unique. Where did I put my sunglasses? That seems like something fun to wear at the end of this video. Oh god. Well, I don't immediately see them, so I have no choice but to assume they've disappeared into the ether. But actually, the YouTubers, like, by their very nature, those types of YouTubers are going to be uploading infrequently. And therefore, you're not going to come across their videos all that often. If I actually think about the YouTubers that I watch all the time, who I appreciate, it's going to be Northern Lion as number one, because he's just consistently funny. He's just reliable, and you can always put on a Library of Laterno bits and banter video and get at least an hour of funny, relatively intelligent, and surprisingly highbrow background commentary noise to enhance your life experience with Laternoism. Or, as another example, Virtual TV. Virtual, his main channel, which he barely uploads to anymore, dedicated towards the history of Trackmania World Records, is how I was introduced to him, and that's a great channel, but he never uploads there anymore. Instead, he uploads segments from his streams on Virtual TV, his second channel. And I watch these videos very regularly, and I'm pretty sure he posts like daily. He posts like daily videos, and they're often reasonably long, and they're often somewhat edited. They're not highly edited, but they are edited, because Virtual hires editors. I'm not in a position where I can afford to hire editors, but nor do I stream. I mean, our content, calling it content, I'm fucked. But, what we do is very different. But nonetheless, the thing that I appreciate about the Virtual TV channel, even if I'm just using the video to fall asleep, is it's very consistent. It's relaxing. It's a constant. I know, Virtual, he has, this shouldn't be offensive to him. There's a positive. He doesn't have a particularly outlandish personality. He's not someone who's trying to make every moment hype and screaming at the monitor every time something happens in a video game. And so on. He keeps it basic. He keeps it basic, but that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It means his stuff is reliable. You click on a Virtual TV video, and I always know the exact amount of enjoyment and entertainment I'm about to get from it. And it's always something that I'm in need of. If I need to sit down and watch something while I'm eating dinner or falling asleep, or to have on a second monitor while I'm playing a video game, or just to watch on my phone while I'm taking a shit, or cooking. It's always the relaxing noise of the Trackmania car's engine, with Virtual's commentary. It's very comforting. And Northern Lion, he's relaxed. His voice is somewhat comforting, and in the sense that it's just something that you've spent a lot of time with, and you grow accustomed to. And this is something that I appreciate about YouTube, right? This is an underappreciated type of video. Is the stuff that's not meant to be a masterpiece. It's not a big project with lots of editing or whatever. Nor is it just, how do I even explain it? Something like what I wanted to say slop, but I feel like everything here could be considered slop. It's all YouTube videos after all. But slop in the sense of this was made to generate money, for the person who made it. It's loud. It's heavily edited. Hey guys, today in this video, we're going to be doing, that kind of thing. I locked 12 people in a submarine that's sinking. But don't worry. Where's my fucking vape? I need to hit that shit. Doing a Mr. Beast impression is making me require nicotine. Anyway, this used to be something I appreciated a lot. As a hiki neat, right, I'm always running out of stuff to do. My harvest is always low. And if I was a better person, I would watch anime. My harvest was low. But I'm not always in the mood to watch anime or read a visual novel. So YouTube is where it's at for me a lot of the time. And so I always appreciated, for a long time, as someone who stays indoors and watches YouTube for a significant portion of my life, just people who make a lot of shit and long, lots and long. That's what I appreciated. Just put it all out there, make a lot of it and make it long. So that, and make it not too interesting. Don't edit it too heavily. Don't make me feel like I need to be looking over at the screen all the time in order to see what's going on so we don't miss something important. You know, maybe I don't want to be doing that. Maybe I want to be relaxing, barely paying attention, and have it as background noise. That's valuable in itself. The ideal form of content is like baseball on the radio or cricket on the radio if you're English. You know, this thing that's just sort of meant to be put on in the background and not much really happens because it's a very slow game and the commentators just sort of talk about random stuff and it kind of becomes a podcast sometimes. That's how cricket and baseball both are. Cricket to a higher degree, but because especially Test cricket, because it's about 3 days worth of game here, or sometimes, you know. So, anyway, that's kind of a digression. But I liked people who make stuff like that. I continue to like people who make stuff like that, and so I used to kind of attempt to make. This was a big idea behind a lot of the videos I made. That I used to make what I called breakfast content, stuff that you can watch over while you're making breakfast or eating breakfast that you barely have to pay attention to, but it's just there every day. Or then the 12-hour podcasts, which were just like the experiment in the highest degree of content slop that you could possibly produce. It's absurdly long, and it is completely background. You know, it has no particular effort put into it or anything. But the idea of like, I wish that I had access to more stuff that was like this, so I'm just going to make it so other people do. That kind of slipped out of my consciousness after a while, because I found Northern Lion and I found Virtual TV, and there's probably others that I watch that I'm forgetting right now, who put out videos like very regularly that are long. You know, they exist. They're out there. I'm not into just naming them off. That seems contrived. But anyway, I think there is value to this, and I need to bring it back, is where I'm going. Where I'm going with this is, I think being a human content machine, I think maximizing for quantity is actually valuable. I think it's, even, you know, there's this guy I've been watching recently called Wild Rumpus, and all he does is he makes unscripted, quite rambly videos about competitive Team Fortress 2 meta, and they're often like 20 minutes long or longer of just footage of Six's gameplay and him just talking over it about various aspects of the competitive TF2 meta. I have very little interest. I'm interested in Team Fortress 2, the video game, but I'm not that interested in competitive Team Fortress 2, at least playing it myself. I don't have much invested in this, but somehow I've been watching all of his videos that he's been putting out recently. He's been putting out these unscripted rants or rambles or discussions about the meta, like daily or almost daily recently, and I've been watching all of them. Somehow, I've been really enjoying it, even though there isn't much structure to it. There isn't much, they're not SEO, you know, they're not particularly optimized as a viewing experience. They're rough around the edges, unedited commentary videos. That's actually a feature to me, and it's quite nice that stuff like that still exists on the internet. And, you know, I sort of forgot about the value of that kind of thing, and in particular forgot that this was a value that I was interested in creating. And I haven't thought about it, honestly. When I've been thinking about making vlogs or YouTube videos, I've been thinking about them as having some extra purpose, not thinking about them in terms of their purpose being that they exist and produce quantity. I've been trying to focus too hard on quality, but that's not even the case. It's more so that I felt like there needed to be some extra excuse. or something special, something particularly exceptional. But that's not the case at all. In fact, there's enough of YouTube is already people trying to tell you this is something exceptional, click me, that maybe it's valuable to have interiority just be this.